Oh,
You did.
we're
All
not
right.
anyways.
We're recording this video, and then I just got to record my audio, and then we're good to go. Let's piece these broken pieces together. So, all right, guys, we're on episode 4, Fumble
Alrighty.
Podcast. I have with me my beautiful, lovely cousin from Hawaii.
Hawaii.
And I'm stupid enough to not know that the time difference is they don't have daylight savings, so she had to wait
Yeah,
an hour
that's
until I
okay.
was ready. All right, so this is the lovely Sabrina, everyone. She's the one who motivated me to get my crap together and actually start my podcast too.
Oh, yay.
She
That makes me
has
happy.
she has her own podcast, Okay Mary Podcast. She's the one on all my ads. You guys hear my shout out to her. So that's the one. She's right
Thank you.
there.
Thank you.
How you
Hello,
doing?
in the flesh. Good. How are you? Wait, okay. So funny. It's fumble. I thought it was P humble, like be humble, right?
Yes,
But
yes,
you
that's
pronounce it fumble.
you. And you know what? They're both right. And that was my. I thought about that when I came up with the name. And by the way, I came
Okay.
up with the name for this thing at like 3 in the morning because I'm an Ahmadi like that, and we just wake up in the middle of the night with thoughts of like what to do the next day. Anyway,
That's
oh,
classic.
I know, but yeah, I was thinking of forever. I was thinking about what the hell should I name this thing, and then I was like, well, I like sports, but I mean, let me think about how I can incorporate everything and into
Oh,
like
it's chef's kiss.
humility, yeah, and then fumble, and I was like, what about fumble with a ph? And then I was like, wait, people are gonna call that p humble,
It's
but
perfect.
and then I was like, so what? That's perfect, yeah.
No, that's perfect. So I thought that was your intent because Emily, my Okay Mary podcast other half, I told her I was doing this with you,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Oh, is that your cousin Fumble podcast?" And I was like, cracking up, like I'm like it's P Humble. And we were
Either way
dying, but
works. Either
I
way
guess it's
works.
Fumble too. Good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And shout out to Emily. I want to have her on too, by the way.
Yay! Oh,
If she doesn't think I'm
hey.
weird for wanting her on
No,
because I've never even looked at her or seen her in person.
no,
So,
you're totally fine.
all
You
right,
listen to
cool.
her on the podcast, so I
I
mean,
do. I do. By
like
the
you know
way,
each
go
other.
check out OK Mary podcast. Sabrina talks about why she left the real estate game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
that
we're
was
not going to
a
spoil
fun
that here.
episode.
We're not going to spoil that here. You have to
Yeah,
go listen
no.
to it over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, how's it going in Hawaii? So, first of all, tell the audience, what moved you to the far west?
Um, I get this question all the time, and it seems like I can never actually answer it. But I just felt like California wasn't for me. I wasn't really happy when I was there. And then after, because I graduated high school early. I just hated high school, and
Oh my
I,
God,
and
you did?
yeah, you didn't know that?
Wait, I
I
did
literally,
too.
I literally graduated when I was 16. Wait, you did too? Wait, I
Yeah.
thought we had this conversation.
You know what? We probably have.
We probably
This
have
is
just
so
forgot.
funny. Okay, continue. I just had to say
Yeah.
that.
But I hated high school. And then I thought I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to UC Irvine, UCLA, like all the other Persian people do. And then I came to Hawaii because I have a friend in who I met him in California, but he's originally from Hawaii. He lives here again now, but he was going to school in Cali. And we came to visit him one summer, me and my friend Jessica. And then I was like, I think I belong here. So I just kind of made it happen and decided to come to school here. I don't know. I feel like I fit in here more.
what made you get that vision of you belonging there? What did it
I
for you?
think it was the people. I never really vibed with the people in California, just like where their values lied. And the people here are a lot more. I mean, there's crazy people everywhere, don't get me wrong. Not everyone here is a saint, but it's just I don't know. And then just the fact that I'm so close to the ocean. I've always loved the ocean. Now I can actually like have a job that has to do with water. It's just so cool. And like I guess you could do it in California if you were in Southern California,
Yeah.
but it's not the same. It's
I
not the
know.
same. So
For people wondering, we are from Northern California,
yeah,
and different vibes. Less beachy areas, but there's still a few. Much colder
yeah,
though.
yeah.
But that's cool. So what do you do now there? You're doing surfing again? I know you love that.
I love surfing, love boating. I work for a yacht charter company. I've been working for them for a while. So I was doing like I was a deckhand, like I was a crew member
Hmm.
in college, and then after college, and then after I graduated, I was like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Like, did I go spend $90,000 on a degree to clean boats? Probably not. So I'm just more so like on the operations side, and I help out here and there. But I'm doing a lot. I try to get outside, but as of recently, I don't.
Yeah.
That kind of stopped when I started real estate, because real estate, you're just grinding, and there's so many reasons why I left that.
Yeah.
So after that, I decided that I need to commit to going outside more and making the most of living here. So I'm starting to slowly get back on track to being more active
Yeah.
in the ocean
There you
and
go.
outside.
That's your passion. That's your love. I
Yeah,
love it.
sure is.
It's great.
It really is.
I'm like you. I don't like sales of any sorts. I'm not someone that can
Ugh.
yeah. I cannot convince someone. But Pega, speaking of which, my sister, she's in it, right? And she does
Yeah.
it and she's doing it in two different completely different
Hate it.
fields. She sells pods for dead people, and then she also
Oh my
works
God,
with
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. She also but she started with real estate with her partner.
Yeah.
I know. It's a
That's
morbid job.
interesting. What? Yeah. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? It is
I know.
morbid.
And she listens to this podcast, by the way. She listens to our podcast too, but she listens to
Hi, Pega.
this
I miss you.
Miss You Sis. She also listens to this podcast. I'll admit I turn her on to. It's a true crime, and it's
Yes.
it's called Sword and Scale. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't, but
Okay.
those are the best.
Yeah. Oh my God. And so she's listening to murder stories on her way to a cemetery, which is kind of
Oh my Pega, that's really dark.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
very dark.
Emo's not dead, ladies and gentlemen.
That's too
God.
good.
I
That's
know.
good.
So
She's funny.
tell us how you started this podcasting journey, Okay Mary podcast. How did that come about?
Um, so Emily and we tend to like go to lunch a few times a week because of her work. So she works in the area, and then she has a really long lunch break. And I live in the area, and I wasn't working at this time. I had all the free time in the world. So we'd always go out to lunch, and our conversations were always just the best. Like we would have really, really good conversations. And me and Emily, we haven't been friends like forever. So I've known her for a few years because I actually work with her boyfriend, and we only just recently, like right before the podcast, starting to getting to know each other really well. So we thought, like we have so much to say because we haven't known each other for that long. And our conversations were just always so fun. And we thought like other people would benefit from listening to it. So one day, I think she said it. I think she was like, we should start a podcast, like as a joke. And then I was like, Emily, yeah, let's start a podcast. She goes, are you serious? Like we were kind of joking around. I was like, no, I'm serious. Let's do it. Let's do a podcast. She goes, if you're serious, then I'm serious. Are we actually going to do this? Like at lunch, I totally remember. And I was like, yes, let's do it. So then we just started it.
That's so awesome. And then like you just and those are the best, by the way, when the ideas just come out of nowhere and then you
Yeah.
realize that's like it just makes so much sense and it's like 1,000% you just go for it. And I'm so
Yeah.
happy that you did because I
Me
love your
too.
podcast. And
Thank you.
by the way, um for all the guys out there, you should listen to this podcast because it definitely teaches guys a few things about
Good.
what women look for and how women think and you can really definitely get educated on that. And that's
Yeah.
actually one of the reasons I wanted you as my first female guest on here. So you're
Thank you.
first female, fourth overall. Sorry, I couldn't get you in earlier,
That's
but
okay.
but especially being Women's History Month, I thought it was the most fitting to have you on and
Yay.
kind of segueing from your podcast into how women think and how you ladies think about what a I guess a catch would be in a guy and what you look for. And of course, you can't speak for every woman. I'm sure it's
Right.
different, but but
Yeah.
we can get a good idea.
Yeah, I definitely it is different for every woman. Actually, we just filmed our next episode that's going to be next Tuesday, and we had our first guest and it was another female, and that's what we were talking about. We were just talking about how like someone might be amazing but you're just like not my type.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it goes really far past looks, and society does its way of, or has its way of portraying that all women care about are men's looks, and then vice versa. All men care about are women's looks. Well, I can't speak for men. My experience from men is that's what they really care about. So that's unfortunate. But as far as women, um, I would say me personally, my biggest trait that I look for is like you could be the most hideous person on earth, but if you're kind and you're loyal, that's my biggest thing is loyalty, faithfulness, and I guess I would say understanding, because it all boils down to that, right? Everybody has their own um what's the word, their own flaws. Everybody has different flaws, and if you're with a partner that can't understand those flaws and how to manage those
Yeah.
flaws when you have like a big hiccup or a trigger, then it's never ever going to work out. So someone that's has like an open heart and open mind and understanding to like, you know what, you have your past experiences that have created the type of person that you are, and you're not just like me at all. You might react to something differently than I react to it, but as long as I can be understanding of the way you react to certain situations, even though I can't understand it, at least I could be understanding of you and like help you feel like you're not crazy. So I think that happens a lot with like younger, the relationships I've been in, I would say, like as a young woman, starting from when I was like 16, is my experience with men has just been like they are I don't even know the word. I don't want to
Yeah.
say any bad words, but
No,
you
for
know,
sure.
they're very conceited, and the mindset of, you know, if you're not exactly like this, bleh, like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not perfect, miss congeniality, um, what are you? But I
yeah.
think it goes a long way when a man or woman can understand that their partner has had a past experience and it explains why they are the way they are, and they're like willing to like, you know, be there for them no matter how they react to certain situations, if they're like past traumas and stuff.
Like that saying goes, if what is it? If you can't handle me on my worst days, then you don't deserve me on my best
And my
days.
best days, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's true. And again, we're not speaking for all women or men.
Yeah.
We're just talking about your experiences thus far. So, what I wanted to get to is what's been the age range of your experience with guys who you've had those more sour experiences with?
Well, I've always dated 4 to 5 years older than me.
Okay.
Um, that's been the trend because I feel like just like maturity levels, they
Yeah.
just don't match with men my age. But they were all 20 to 30. No, no one in their 30s, no
Yeah.
one even up to 30, but it's been under 30. So
Okay.
28 and under
Yeah,
has
yeah.
been like my experience.
Well, I can tell you, right now I'm 35 and I'm still I'm still maturing. So, guys just tend we like to stay young, like real young.
Yeah,
I know.
I've
So
noticed.
yeah, we mature at a much different pace than women do, and I don't know where that if that comes from just uh genetics or just I don't know if there's a science to it or
I
it's
think
just
there is.
there is, right? I feel there is.
I
I
think
don't know.
there is.
But I do attribute um a lot of women's maturing faster to a lot of unfortunate pressure that's put on them,
Yeah,
like
I
by
agree.
society, right?
Yeah.
You guys always have to carry the that pressure whether you want to or not. It almost is like it's forced on you, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
but times are changing. I see things starting to slowly,
Hopefully.
slowly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Hopefully.
What do you think of that?
I just said this actually a few days ago to a friend that, if it was like a month ago, I was really confident with the future around like expectations for women, especially when it comes to like their looks and their outward appearance and the way they should act. Because I feel like women are speaking up a lot more and they're, you know, uh, fighting for their right to just exist, because I feel like it's hard for even women to exist and do anything without someone making a comment about something. Like,
Yeah.
you're never going to be perfect in society's eyes. But I don't know, as of recently, I could say like the past week, I just keep seeing so much hate towards women, and even like women themselves, like in these really um, influential with platforms that they're on, like Kendall Jenner, the Kardashians, they're almost like fueling what's wrong with society and their outlook on women, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
all of these crazy body editing apps, their face editing apps, and then acting like it's so natural and saying, no, I've never gotten surgery, I've never gotten all these things. And it's really toxic because it's like, it's so different if you were to just post that and be open about like certain procedures that you've gotten, because now when you're acting like it's normal when it's clearly not, like no one's just born a Barbie doll. When you're acting like it's normal, you're teaching 15, 14-year-old girls who are starting to look at themselves a certain way and they think they need to look like that. They think that's the definition of beauty. Then they start having eating disorders. They're working out like crazy. They're thinking about surgeries they want to get to look like you. And then they're depressed that they have to go through all this when like Kendall Jenner can look like that naturally, when like she doesn't even look like that. And I think it's really even toxic for people my age, because I'll look at that and I'll feel like crap for weeks. But I am at an age where I understand like there's so much that goes into that one photo. Like I know this woman doesn't look like that, but it makes me sad for girls much younger than me that don't think like that. Like they don't know
Yeah.
that they use this app. They don't know that there are surgeries that could literally change your entire face, your entire body. Like, so I don't know. I go back and forth. I think I would have more hope in society as a whole when it comes to expectations on women if people in those influential places like Ariana Grande or a woman that most majority of girls look up to are speaking out against all of that, or they're doing their part. But I don't feel like a lot of influential women are doing their part, which is sad.
So yeah, you speak of 14-year-old girls out there, and I know one being
Yes.
my
Yeah.
niece, and
Yeah.
she's
We love you.
yeah, and she's obsessed with Ariana Grande, and uh there are a few artists I would say do a good job of, I guess the word being real for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They keep it real. They're not into that,
Yeah.
they don't follow that, like, I guess, formula of
Yeah.
what you're supposed to look like. They just look like the way they want to look like. I can
Yeah.
think of Billie Eilish as being one of those.
Tori Kelly.
Tori Kelly, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But it's like the biggest stars, I guess, besides Billie Eilish. I
yeah,
feel like they're the ones that are the most fabricated, and it's really hard because they are the biggest stars.
yeah. Do you think that pressure's put on them by their labels or by Hollywood, quote unquote,
I'm
or
sure it is because
yeah,
the only way they're getting that big is they're a human that's unattainable, and that's why people find them so intriguing, right? Like
yeah,
I don't think like what no offense, but I know this is like an outdated conversation, but like the Kardashians, yes, they're
Yeah.
business people, but they're business people because of their platform. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
like the when Kylie Jenner's like, I'm self-made billionaire. It's like if you didn't have your name, your makeup company would not be where it's at, period. Like
Yeah.
that's just so you could say you did it from scratch, you're on your own, but you had so much help by
Yeah.
just being already so famous and having outreach to millions of people. If I started a makeup company right now, same exact formula, same exact marketing, I would not be on the cover of Forbes. I cannot outreach to millions of people. So at the end of the day, it's like you look at people who really don't possess an intriguing talent. Like obviously Ariana Grande is extremely talented,
Yeah.
but can Kim Kardashian sing like that? No. Can
Yeah.
she do motivational speeches like on TED Talks? No. Like
Right.
she, I'm sure, is a great woman, but there's nothing outstanding about her that should give her this platform besides her presentation.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of people, not people, women get their platform is purely their presentation. Influencers on Instagram, all they do is they really post stuff on social media
Yeah.
and they get paid because they're beautiful. So if you're like a beautiful woman and people want to look like you, brands know they can send you stuff that you can say, I use this because the consumer is going to look at it as, oh, if I use that and I buy that, I might look like her or I might be more like her. And it works. It works because I do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do that all the time. I buy things like the models that I love on Instagram.
Yeah.
If they're using something, I'm like, add to cart.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. No, I get that, and it's well, one thing you just said that those companies that are watching, it's almost scary. They're like
Yeah.
watching you. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're trying to get their attention, that's fine, right? But even if you're not, right, you just have a account for yourself, and you just, you know, like I know my niece, she loves to be, she does entertainment, she does theater and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
um I've asked her, let's record a song together because she has a good voice, and i
Yeah.
want i want to showcase that.
Yeah.
She usually she gets apprehensive more, so then I think, man, these companies are probably looking at these younger
Yeah.
generations, and I don't know,
Yeah.
the uncle in me is like, stop looking at my niece. But
Yeah.
it's the double-edged sword of social media, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
using it responsibly versus letting it use you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have this phone case and I actually just ordered a pop socket version of it. It says social media seriously harms your mental health. And I had it a while ago and my mom like loved it. And it's funny because I was using it at a time where I felt like I was genuinely really mentally healthy. I wasn't on social media a lot.
Mhm.
And then recently I've noticed that for all this free time I've had, I've been on social media and I could definitely see my mental health kind of declining. And I was like, I need that in a pop socket case form again because it's such a good reminder every time I look at my phone
Oh yeah.
to remind myself like this is all fake. Like it's all so even my Instagram like looks like I'm out every single day
Yeah.
in the sun, in the ocean. And that's not true at all. Most of my time I'm sitting here and I'm trying to start my business or I'm like crying watching The Office or something, dumb. Like my life isn't that all that in a pack of crackers,
Yeah.
but that's the only time I really take content or take pictures is when I'm doing something cool. And that's the majority of people on the gram, on Facebook, on TikTok,
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone's fabricating their lives. So
That
just reminding
exactly.
yourself it's fake.
But it kind of does it on its own, except when you're loading content up like every hour, right? Because you're actually an influencer, or you've become
Yeah.
one, like Brett Man Rock. Like, I don't know how he does it. He's
He
like,
has a team.
he has a team. He for sure has
He
a team.
has a team.
By the way, his show is awesome. Have you been
I
watching it?
haven't watched it yet, but I love him. So I don't know why I haven't watched it
I
yet.
know. I'm
Because I
I'm
love
falling
him.
behind. I'm falling behind on episodes, but yeah, he's great. Bretman,
Good
if you hear
character.
this, I'd love to have you on here.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that would be so great. I met him once. He was amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he lives here.
That's right. Oh my God, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Um, he's cool because he's also like he's hilarious, obviously, but he also has like real moments, and he honestly just doesn't give a shit what people think.
That's why I think I really, really enjoy him. And
Yeah.
I loved him even more after meeting him because he's the exact same in person that
Humble
he
pie.
is like online. Because
Yeah.
when I met him, what did I say to him? I was like, oh my God, you look so good. And he's like, girl, I know. And I was just cracking up because I was like, wow, you are the exact same.
But
Like it's just not a show.
that's beautiful to see because
Yeah.
that makes it, yeah, that makes them more real, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
someone like Bretman Rock or Billie Eilish, which by the way I'm a
Love
huge
her.
fan of, right? Like
Did you watch her documentary? I'm
oh
sure you
yeah,
did. So
dude.
good.
Right after, like, I watched it actually with my nieces because my older niece wants to, like, she loves Billie Eilish just like I do.
Nika?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
she does. Yeah,
Oh,
we were gonna go to her concert, and then
yeah,
COVID
COVID.
happened. Yeah,
Okay,
so
well, when she reschedules, I would like to come.
yes, come.
Invite me.
Absolutely, you're invited. You know you're invited. Come on.
Yay.
By the way, for people who don't know, we should probably explain how we're related, because people are probably assuming we're just first cousins. That's not true. Our
No,
our dads are first cousins, so that would make us. How does that work? Does that make us
the
first cousins
kids'
once removed?
cousins.
Yeah, I don't. We're cousins.
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But we're cousins.
Yeah, we're cousins, man. Everybody, they say everybody is 50th cousins or less, or something like that. Isn't that crazy? Did you know
I feel like Persians have like 150
that?
cousins.
Well, like, but they're saying like as far as genealogy, like everybody is related on this planet, and the way they've done the math is that 50th cousins or less. I know it makes it sound gross because then you don't want to see anybody. As
Yeah,
far, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Ew.
But I just stopped counting after like 15th cousin. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. But
Anyone
anyway,
that I see at a family party, I'm just like, that's my cousin.
well, Persian families are huge to begin with, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so going back to Billie Eilish, like she, like in the documentary, it showcases that, and I feel like if I were to meet her in person, and I've seen her concerts where she's like, she tells the crowd like, I
Hmm.
need you to be okay, right? She's
Yeah.
like, because
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay, because she looks at herself as one of them, and that's
I love that.
for like a 19-year-old to think that way, right?
It's really wise because I mean, look at Justin Bieber and his documentary. I don't know if you watched it, but
Yeah,
he said like at that young age, like I couldn't learn that I was just a normal human. So the amount of dopamine you're getting when people are like
yeah,
praising you and that amounts of numbers, like she's very, very wise. I
yeah.
blame it on the homeschool, or I give credit to the homeschool.
Credit the homeschooled. Yeah, that's true. So, um, but yeah, I'm glad though that there are celebrities out there that are responsible about that now,
Yeah,
and
me
at
too.
such a young age, it's huge. You're one of them. I mean, you're. I hope you become so famous and you can influence the world to be
Oh my
better.
God, thank you.
Yeah,
I too hope the same thing. Well, I don't know, famous. I'd like to be like an influential person to the amount where it's not like a you can't walk outside
yeah,
and
yeah.
people are attacking you, but I hope I'm just like casual person, be like, oh yeah, she influences millions of people, but she's whatever. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to take a picture with her or anything.
Hey,
That'd be cool.
you influenced me to start this podcast, so there you
Thank
go.
you. Good.
No,
I just
I
need a talent. See if I could sing like you,
oh
then
please.
hopefully I could reach more people. But I'm very not talented.
You're a great talker, you're a great speaker, you're
Thank
entertaining.
you.
You're
Thank you.
you have it. So just keep it up. I know it's going to get you.
We're a family of entertainers.
That's true. We have a few, and we have a few that aren't so much, but
Yes.
yeah.
Farshad.
Oh. Farshad is the engineer of our family, man. He's good at that. That's his talent.
So
Um,
funny.
he used to play the Persian like
Drum.
the drum, yeah.
I remember.
And my dad would my dad would glorify him, like, oh, he's so good. And he would come to me, he's like, bro, I suck, I'm not that.
That's nice.
But yeah,
Your dad's a nice guy.
I love my dad. Yeah, I love your dad too. You guys are so
Yeah.
sweet.
Oh,
um
thanks.
anyway, so we were so going back to influencers and responsibility of females and males, on how what realism and being portrayed that way. I guess the moral of the story is we have to be um, forcing social media to show our real side as opposed to the other way around, as us
Yeah.
allowing social media to dictate what,
Yeah.
you know.
I
And that's,
always see it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that's so important because, again, being an uncle, and I try not, like, I try to be the cool uncle that's not always worried about my nieces, like,
Yeah.
future and stuff. But you think about it, and you see it, and that's why I like someone like Bretman Rock or Billie Eilish, because yeah, they're themselves, but they're unapologetically themselves, and they're not gonna
Yeah.
change even if you throw $1 billion in their face. They're not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna be
Yeah.
anybody else.
Yeah.
What I love about Billie Eilish, by the way, she still lives in the same house.
I know. I tell everyone that. Like every time I introduce someone to Billie Eilish, I'm like, she still lives in the house she grew up in. Like, look at this
So good,
house with
so
her
awesome.
parents. I think it's really great. It's really humble of her. And it's so funny because I was cracking up so hard the part of the documentary. So I was thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, she has millions of dollars. You're literally a millionaire. Like, girl, go get a house. And she
Yeah,
was so excited about her first car. I was like, you could literally buy 7,000 of those cars and still have $1 million in the bank. And then towards the end, they were like all delusional, writing a song or recording a song for the James Bond movie.
yeah,
And they were talking about them being millionaires. But she just said it so like she was cracking up and
yeah.
laughing. Like she didn't make it seem like annoying or like like
I
cocky
know.
about it. She was just like, we're millionaires, that's weird.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
like that about her humor.
yeah. That's true. That's true. So, as far as uh you and what you want to be out there, and you're still being yourself, by the way. You said your social media is fake. It's not really fake. You're actually just in a
Fake.
really beautiful place, and it's you can
Thanks.
just literally walk outside and there's like a million Instagram posts waiting to happen. So
That's true.
um but what would you say to the younger generation that's following, right, that's looking up, that listens to your podcast or even follows you, and or even doesn't follow you, just what advice would you give the younger girls as far as what to look for in guys, and also how to carry themselves?
Um
No pressure.
Okay, as far as like telling younger girls what to look for in guys, I would say follow your gut instinct and just think about how they make you feel. Because if someone is like very, very attractive and you're like physically attracted to them, but like emotionally, they're making you dread your life, that's not the right person for you because it's not going to get better. It really won't get better. So I would say just look for someone that makes you, if you're looking for someone or you're open to dating, look for someone that makes you feel better than you already feel. Like, I don't think, you should let someone into your life if they're going to make you feel worse than you do. And as far as like advice on looking at whether it's my Instagram, other people's Instagrams that look like they have perfect lives, things are not as they seem. And I've come to realize that because of all the influencers that I have looked up to in my past, however, so many years on social media, like what, 10 years already on social media. Um, I have noticed that even those people that have quote unquote perfect lives or they're so beautiful and you just like want to take a picture of their face or plastic surgery and be like, make me look like this. I'm sure if you put them in therapy, they would sit there and talk about all the things they're insecure about, all the things they're depressed about, and things are just really not at all as they seem. I could tell you from my personal experience, I don't want to share as much as I can on social media, but it's also a highlight reel. So I don't post the hard things I'm going through. So when
Mhm.
people go to my account, I even get messages like, you look so happy. You look
Yeah.
so, I'm like, I was depressed, like clinically depressed for like the last year, that like I was losing my hair and I was like
Oh.
physically, I was having like physical impairments from my depression, but people would have no idea because I'm not out here like, you guys, I'm depressed. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to ask for attention,
I
but
see.
things are really not as they seem at
Yeah.
all. So always just keep that in the back of your head every time you find yourself like scrolling and scrolling for hours and feeling bleh about
Yeah.
yourself. I did that the other day and I had to tell myself just exit. And I just exited, I unfollowed. Even though I wanted to keep looking, it wasn't serving me and it wasn't making me feel better. So I got rid of the account. And I forget who it even was already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's good that you recognize that. And I think what's important is to know that no matter who you're following, whether they have a trillion followers or they have five, they all go through the daily challenges of life, man. We all deal
yeah.
with it. We all have
Yeah.
mental health. I think mental health is, even though it's talked about a lot these days, I don't think it's talked about enough.
It's not. And
It's
you know
not.
what's interesting is the other day or yesterday morning, I thought to myself, I had this thought. And I said, people don't understand anxiety the way anxiety actually is. And I don't know what triggered that thought, but I was just thinking about my past in high school and middle school and elementary school and the workplaces. And when you feel anxiety or people who have clinical anxiety or depression, it's like the simplest of things are hardest to do. And people think anxiety as like, oh, you're like kind of nervous or something makes you anxious. Like, that's not at all what it is. Like, sometimes people with really, really bad anxiety, just getting out of the bed and brushing your teeth feels impossible.
Oh
And
my
it's
god.
so hard to get someone out of bed to do the simplest of tasks, and they
Yeah.
can't explain it. And they really can't explain it. So I wish people, when they talk about mental health, they don't just group it into something so crazy and dramatic, like you have to have schizophrenia to have poor mental health. I
Yeah.
don't have one friend, actually, I have one friend, and I would say it's Emily, who I've never seen like any type of mental health issues, but
Mm-hmm.
majority of the people I hang out with, we all admit like, oh, we're having a very like a big anxiety day. We've
Yeah.
been depressed this whole week and it just triggered us. And that's why I couldn't text you back for a week. I'm sorry. The thought of texting someone made me anxious. So it's way more prevalent than people think.
Yeah.
And it needs like the minor forms of mental health can affect your life in drastic ways. And I think we need to be talking about that kind of stuff too.
Absolutely. And I think um more of the I guess uh, not all, I can't speak for all, but a lot of families that come from Persian backgrounds,
Yep.
they
Don't
it's
believe in it.
it's almost taboo, right? It's
It
almost
is.
taboo.
My mom still doesn't understand.
Yeah, and you know what? It's okay to a degree because it is emerging as like one of the most pivotal topics and
Yeah.
pivotal like issues that we
Yeah.
face. By the
Yeah.
way, my the older I get, and when I think back to like stories my dad has shared from his childhood, or
Hmm.
my uncles have shared, I'm like, guys, or my aunts even, right? I'm like, dude, my mom was in prison, by the way, for a year, right? Like,
Wait, wait,
yeah,
wait. Hold on, pause. This is new information. What?
yeah, yeah. Okay, so um, religious persecution.
Was it a hijab situation?
It was, well, she was a Baha'i, right? And
Yeah.
in
She
Iran,
was
that's
aware.
that religion is basically like a sin. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's dumb that she even went to prison, but
Yeah.
she went before she had me, right?
Uh-huh.
And every time I ask her to talk about like what were your experience for a whole year? By the way, her and my grandmother together, they put them in there. And for that year, she always has very little to actually open up about. But I
Yeah.
know that she went through some shit in there, man. Because
Yeah.
I know they one thing they do, the government in Iran, what when they put you in prison, one practice they have is when you're a Baha'i, is to try to get you to recount, like recant your faith, like
Yeah.
turn away from your faith. I'm not religious, by the way, at all, right? I'm not a
Hmm.
religious person. This is not a religious podcast at all. I'm just, I'm just, I'm just,
Sharing.
yeah, I'm just sharing this specific story about my mom being in
Hmm.
prison. Anyway, so when she tells me, like, when she gives me a glimpse of it, and then growing up and now thinking back to these stories that both my parents have shared and my uncles and aunts, I'm like, they all could have just used a therapist, man. Like if they had a therapist, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I am all for therapy, mental therapy,
Yes.
right?
I just started therapy. It's best.
Good for you. I'm starting soon too. It's
Do it.
there's nothing taboo
Everyone has
about it.
things to work through.
Of
Yeah,
course.
definitely not. And here's what's the funny that when you spoke about your mom needing therapy is my mom, when I told her, I was like, hey mom, like I really need therapy. I want to get therapy. She's like, baby, why? And like so concerned. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go cut myself. I'm not gonna kill myself, but I'm like, I need therapy because I have a lot of emotions that are just not natural, not normal. They're holding me back from like living my life. And like growing up, I've always had these weird quirks or things about me that just made my life really, really hard. And I was starting to do more research, and I don't want to self-diagnose myself, but I was like, mom, I really think I actually have like a attention deficit disorder. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
it's been so hard for me to like stay in a job or continue things that I've always wanted to do. And I'm 24 now. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm really going any places, and I really need to get a hold of my life. And she was just telling me, she's like, I just don't understand like why you say you have anxiety. I don't get it. And then she would tell me stories about her like at my age.
Yeah.
And like she told me one story about when she started teaching, or not teaching, she was in a school when she left Iran, and she had an accent because she doesn't speak English, it's not her
Yeah.
first language. And then she would feel like this feeling how she wanted to throw up every time she went into class because kids made fun of her. And I was like, mother, that is anxiety. So you know what anxiety feels like. Some people, like me, feel that every day for no reason. It's a mental health disorder and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, they have feelings, emotions, but they don't classify it as a term because, like you said, it's taboo. I think to not just Persians, but even like Asian families. I hear
Yeah.
that a lot from my Asian friends.
Yeah.
Pretty much every culture is thinking it's pretty much taboo. They
Yeah.
think it's pretty much taboo.
And if I can, first of all, women go through a lot more shit than men do in their
Thank
lives.
you for saying that
Oh,
because it's true.
1,000%. I have nothing but the utmost respect for you ladies. But
Thank you.
my own mom being one, right? She had to go, she went through a year in prison, like after having Pega, by the way. She had Pega.
Oh,
Yeah. So she has her first child, and then Pega might be, give or take, maybe she's like
crazy.
2. She's like 2 years old, and she's going without her mom for a year. So that tells you two things. One, my mom had to be in prison, thinking about the fact that
She's not there for her
she's
kid.
not there for her kid. Obviously, my dad did a good job
Yeah,
at picking up the pieces, but it's
yeah,
for an adolescent child, especially a daughter, to not have
yeah.
that
Mom.
motherly love
Mm-hmm.
for a year, and it was out of her hand, which
Mm-hmm.
like infuriates me.
Yeah.
um and then, so that's from my mom's side, having to think about that. And then Pega, obviously she was 2, so she doesn't remember it. However, like, um I'm sure going through that and then growing up, and my mom, the experience of prison, like, really uh made her be kind of like quiet. And you've seen my mom, you know how
Yeah.
she's very reserved. I always say, when my mom's,
Gentle.
yeah, she's very gentle and
Gentle.
I love her. I love all the women in my life, but My wife as well, Shada. And speaking of anxiety, I'll get into that with her too. She was my mom was, she's always reserved. So I always say, when my mom talks, everyone listens because it's like she actually has something to say that is
Valuable to say.
valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas my dad and to a degree myself and my sister, we can talk all day,
Yeah, true, true, true.
but but anyway, but it's so true. So, and then as far as the guy's side, like going back to seeing like how I see a lot of male figures in my family that could have used therapy or at least attention for the mental health.
Yeah.
It and by the way, my dad, the way he was raised by my grandfather, like I don't condone it at all, but it wasn't for the faint of heart. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And but like for them, like when they complained about something that they're going through, old school thinking is, oh, tough it out, right?
Yeah, that's
Tough it
just
out.
generations and we're like trying to change it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like a lot of male figures in my family, the older ones, growing up, that's how they were raised. They were told that.
Yeah, my
And
dad too.
yeah. So they can, your dad and my dad definitely are on the same boat in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's tough, but let's make that change for our kids, right? For
Yeah,
our for
that's the biggest thing for me is I think if I have a son or if I have a daughter, I do not want my son to feel like he needs to have some type of toxic masculinity and can't show his emotions and his feelings and then become just like a blatant douchebag. And then for my daughter, I don't want her to feel like she needs to be some perfect queen that's literally Miss Congeniality, or else people won't give a shit about her.
yeah,
Because the thing is, no one's gonna be perfect. And even if you were perfect, people are still gonna talk shit about you.
yeah.
So I just hope that by the time I do bring kids in this world, the narrative behind expectations on men and women change
Oh man,
drastically. They need to change drastically before I even consider bringing kids into this
me too, me too.
world.
I know, and Shayla agrees. We both
Okay,
agree.
good.
Yeah,
That's good.
we see that, and we're like, man, you know.
Yes.
Also,
And
like raising kids takes a lot of patience, and
it
and
does.
yeah, and we're
So
trying to build that. We're trying to build that stamina. You know.
yeah, I think too it's important to like if you like as an adult ready to have children, for anyone listening that's moving this boat, is to kind of hold yourself accountable for the shit that you need to take care of. Like if you have little weird quirks and you understand like, oh yeah, that's an issue I have, that's a trigger I have. I should, pay attention to. I should fix it before you
Yeah.
have kids, because I have friends that they have daughters that are like 7, 8, and they still struggle with like bodily image and like eating disorders and stuff. And I'm like, you don't understand that every time you look at yourself and like, oh my God, I can't eat because I'm getting fat. Oh my God, I can't eat. Or like saying
Yeah.
things like that to you that you've been used to saying is literally translating to your daughter. Do you want her to grow up the same way you grew up? You're in your 30s and you still focus so much on your looks that you're literally depressed and you can't be happy. Do you want the same for your daughter? So I think it's like parents should be responsible enough. No
Mm.
one's gonna be perfect, but
Exactly. I was
if
gonna
you
say.
yeah, no one's perfect. You'll never be perfect. But if you have like a really, really major insecurity or a mental health issue or whatever that's gonna affect the way you raise your children, and it's gonna take like your preconceived issue or pre-issues that you've created or you grew up with, and you're going to pass it on to your kid, like you can break that cycle. You definitely can break that cycle. There's so much help nowadays. There's so much um, awareness behind things like eating disorders, addiction, whatever it may be that you're going through, that I really think it's responsible for people to try their best to handle their issues before raising a kid.
As much as possible, anyway, right? As much as
Yeah, as
possible.
much as you can.
but that
Whatever's
word
available to you, whatever help is available to you, make it an effort,
1000%. I think responsibility that you mentioned is a huge word, and it's so important, and we can't stress that enough. Um, but anxiety. I luckily, I mean, I don't deal with anxiety, but because I know people who do,
Hmm.
and I know that I don't have that avenue of mental health challenge, but I have
You're
others.
so lucky.
I know I am lucky, and I see how common it is. Right, it's a very common thing.
Yeah, it is.
But here's one thing: as far as my wife is concerned, she has anxiety too, and she wouldn't
Hmm.
mind me telling you this or anyone. Um, she because of that, because of her anxiety, and her anxiety comes from uh, fear of being alone. Right? She tells me that ever since she was little. Right? She would have that, and then that leads to other habits, right? That
Hmm.
that that are that could be detrimental to herself. But she's fine. She's strong. She's the strongest woman I know, and she's beautiful, and I'm lucky to be able to call her my wife. Um,
Amen.
yeah, man. And so my but as you know, and she lost her father last year to cancer, and and it all happened within like 5 months. I mean, it was so fast.
Yeah.
Um, and seeing her, I mean, I was just, and I, he was my father-in-law, right? So that relationship was, where we were close, but I could never even imagine trying to step in the shoes of Shada and Erfan, my
Yeah.
brother-in-law,
Yeah.
or and because the way Shada she handled it like a champ, man. I mean,
I noticed.
of course she was gonna.
Even when I saw you guys and she talked about it, I remember going home and telling my parents, like, I told my mom and dad because I've always had, being Persian, like they don't talk about death. So I'm
No.
very afraid of having to mourn a family member because of how I'll handle it. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, Shada is everything I want to be. Like she was so strong the way she talked about her dad. And I just know like the day I lose you and dad, like I feel like I would die. Like someone would have to put me in an insane asylum. And I remember I told Shada that, and she's like, I used to feel like that too, but
Yeah.
I guess she thought, she believes that her dad is giving her like all the strength to get
Yeah.
through it. And I'm like, can you teach me? Because I am dreading the day that I have to go through that. But she really gave me hope. Like the fact that she struggles with anxiety and she could say that she felt the same exact way I did, that she's just as close to her parent or her dad as I am to my parents. It made me realize like maybe it is possible to make it through such a tragic experience. She did handle that like a champ. I told everyone. I told everyone.
It's I mean, I was such a proud husband just watching how she was dealing with the emotions of it being the hardest part. I mean, I cried at my own wedding, so and she didn't. So that shows how emotional I get. But she was able to handle um like just the news, and then obviously she had days where she had to cry. It's
Yeah.
normal. Like
Yeah.
it's if she didn't cry, I would be worried, right? Like
Yeah. You're not supposed to be okay.
yeah. So but dealing with the emotions, and then the boatload of uh like domino effects that led to, you know, inheritance stuff. How my father-in-law's house she has to go, like, we joke about it now, but we sold a house before we bought a house,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we had to deal
With
with
all that.
with all of his belong, and she just handled it like a champ, man. And I learned a lot, but she
Yeah.
attributes it at least partially to that anxiety, because she can, when she's under fire,
Hmm.
she can handle it, because she says, like, I think about these things that I freak out about, all because of my anxiety. But she says, but when I'm actually in these situations, I just it just comes to me. I because I guess for better or
prepare for it.
worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's a silver lining. But
Mm-hmm.
but and the other, like I said, her anxiety comes from fear of being alone, and she was so close to her dad, and then
Yeah.
being gone. She
Yeah.
it took her some while to, and sometimes she still struggles with acceptance. Right, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, my point being is anxiety is such a common thing that my cousin has it, as she just mentioned here, and then my wife has it, right? um my other cousins have it. So the point is, you're not alone. And so when she thinks of that, she's like, okay, well, people go through this shit, and I'm not
Yeah.
the only person. And what's beautiful is we got to talk about it. There's not We have to discuss the mental health, anxiety being one, right, depression being another, and some of them lead to the other ones, right? But I know I haven't been diagnosed, but I know I've had days where, like you said, I don't want to get out of bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Waking up is like sometimes the
Like a
biggest challenge.
chore. Yeah.
It is. It's like a chore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like, all right, what? But one thing that works for me, and this is not at the recommendation of therapists or professionals. It's just something that works for
Not
me, and
medical advice.
no medical advice.
P
Exactly.
humble advice.
Be humble advice. Um, I what I do now that works for me, and maybe it's because of like being 35 and having gone through the mistakes, because I've handled it wrong. In my 20s, I handled it the wrong way. Um, I plan. I have to plan. I have to plan my days, right? And
That's good.
that works for me because I literally use the reminder app on my phone, and I just say,
Me
okay,
too.
remind me to do X, Y, and Z, right? And
Mhm.
then just by writing it in there, I have like this calm, and it
That
helps me.
that's so funny. I give that advice to everyone too. I say when
Okay.
you have a lot to do, write a to-do list.
Yeah.
It's so because writing it down, it's like off your mind, it's cluttered in your brain. Then you put it on paper and you're like, ah, organization.
I know. I
Yeah,
know.
I totally feel
Organization.
you.
So
That's so
true.
true.
Absolutely. And I think that uh by writing things down and setting reminders for me, um it allows me to not be in the like in that fog, right? Not be
Yeah.
in that like unknown. That's where I
Yeah.
feel that my lowest is, when I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like I
I
hate that.
relate.
Yeah.
I relate.
So for men and women, right? I think we can say that we both deal with it. Um, and
Oh,
and and men, it's not taboo to to vent, to see a therapist. We don't have to tough it out, guys. It's okay. It's okay to cry, man. I cry.
yeah. You know what I want to add to your first question about like what do women look for in men? I would say that like be vulnerable because I cannot find anything more unattractive than a man who's like, I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine, I'm good,
Yeah.
I'm good. And I'm like, can you communicate? Because it's like clearly nothing's fine.
Yeah.
And when you're like, I'm good, it's just like, do you not want to talk? Like, am I not important enough to you for you to share? And I think it just comes from men being raised like, oh, don't cry, don't be a pussy, like
Yeah. Yeah.
comments like that. And it's
I
really,
know.
really toxic.
I
So when
know.
you come across like a man that can actually be completely vulnerable, share his emotions, share his feelings, and say, like, no, I'm not okay. I was feeling this today. I was feeling this. It's so, I think it's more masculine of a man to be vulnerable
Yeah.
than I think it's not masculine when a man's like wants to hide
Yeah.
everything.
And I can say that that's probably I know guys that struggle with that.
Yeah, me
Um
too.
and I I struggle with it too, by the way. Yeah, I cry a lot, but there's times where, cuz again, uh we teach what we've learned, right? And my parents
Yeah,
learned one way, and they were immigrants in this country,
yeah, yeah,
and their perspective on life is never going to be the same as mine. I was
yeah.
fortunate enough to grow up essentially. I mean, I consider myself an American. Obviously, I was born in Iran, but I came at such a young age,
Mm-hmm.
and so like I've adapted. It was so much easier for me to adapt to the West life in the West, and so,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I could never say that for my parents. And the older I get, the more I feel guilty because sometimes I'm hard on them. I'm like, come on, like don't do this, don't do that. But then I realized, dude, their perspective is so off. It's so
People
different
are
from me.
just a product of their past. So I think the best way to approach anyone that like does things differently than you is like grace, right?
Yes, yes.
So even
And
if someone,
humility. And
yeah,
humility.
grace
Yeah.
and be humble, but I think that's like a really big attribute to have as well. Like if you are dealing with someone or a parent or a family member that you can just like it's just plastered on their forehead all the ways they treat other people, or the ways they are all a product of what they've been through. So just give them grace. I think it's important, like obviously if someone's going to try and go shoot up a school, you can give a
Oh,
reason to it, right? Is like
yeah.
they were probably bullied and had a lot of trauma. So obviously that's not okay because it harms people and you have to change it. But I think being able to approach people with like really, really drastic mental health issues is, you know, let them know this needs to change. Like this way that you are, unfortunately, is not a good way to be. Like the fact that you want to kill people is not right at all. It
Right.
needs to change, but don't like make someone feel lower than they already feel, you know, like happy people don't wake up wanting to ruin people's days. So even as like simple as a really rude waitress at the restaurant is, they have to be going through something. They had to have gone through something that day. So just approaching people with grace, humility, and not acting like you know their entire life because you genuinely have no idea
Nope.
what
We don't.
people are going through.
We don't. We was that a sneeze? Bless you.
No, it was
Okay.
a
Oh.
it was a cough.
Okay, okay.
It's in my throat.
Uh-oh. But it's I think the word I always go to is empathy. Um just
Yeah.
try to have empathy, man. It's as hard as it is sometimes. We got to get out of our own head for just a minute just to think what I'm about to tell this person, they've probably thought about already, right?
Yeah. And
And
it's
it's
that, you know, that old quote that's like, walk a mile in my shoes or put yourself in the other
yeah,
person's shoes.
yeah,
I'm like, yes, do that. Like, that
yeah,
is the best advice I could give anyone, is when you're in
yeah,
the middle of an argument,
yeah.
you need to see it from their perspective.
Or before an argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Conversation, difference,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. So, it's man, I'm so glad I had you on as my first female guest.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's
me too.
and if you want real talks like this, then you need to listen to Okay Mary podcast because they actually I listen to it, right? And I'm not ashamed to say it because I'm not tough. I listen to it, I learn. Other men and women, uh women will agree, men will learn. So
You know, I have to be honest, we have about 40% of our listeners are men.
that's great.
Isn't that shocking? I was pretty shocked, but I realized like each of our episodes are not like girl talk. Like it's not like that one Call Her Daddy podcast. It's not things that like you want to listen to only if you're a woman.
Yeah,
I think we talk about pretty neutral stuff. And when it has
we
to
do.
do more so about women, I think men can really gain from it as well because you can like get inside the head of a female without having to talk directly to that female.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so much blockage. Both I think, well, I can speak for men, for myself and a lot of men, especially in America, or the West, is that we create a bunch of reasons in our heads why we shouldn't, right? Approach a woman that we think is pretty or we think is
Yeah,
interesting, even,
yeah,
right? Uh,
yeah.
by the way, looks is great. Um, wh- I'm talking to guys. When you see a girl and you think is pretty, that's great. But for me personally, I don't know. I always was more interested in personality than I was in
As you
looks.
should be, because at the end of the day, looks fade, right? Like, are you gonna spend your life with this person who has like a
Yeah,
really nice butt but a shitty personality?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
And I'm
looks
lucky enough,
fade.
and I'm lucky enough that Shada has both, right?
Both. Yeah, I
In
was gonna
in
say.
abundance, in abundance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's a sweetheart, and again, I'm lucky to have her. Not
Amen.
have her. She's my wife. She has me
To partner up in life with
to,
her.
to partner up in life. That's right.
Yeah.
Sabrina, I want you back on here like
Yay!
anytime you want. Please.
Okay. You just let me know. My schedule is just kind of, I'm just trying to see how far I could go with my savings at this point. So call me whenever.
and you will figure that out. I'm sure of it, because your head is in the right place. You're following your passions and you're doing it the right way. You're learning from others. You're not you're not you're not fo- chasing it in a negative way at all. You're being very
Thank you.
forward thinking, and that's that. And by the way, to wrap this conversation on what true beauty is and everything, that is so relative, because beauty in one region of the world is completely different than in other regions of the world.
I just talked about this the other day on the podcast. You have to listen to it, because I saw, I know we need to end this, but I saw a TikTok that was talking about, like, I'm going to change your whole entire perception on beauty standards. In this country, women are getting surgeries to make your eyes look like super round, while you're trying to, in the States, you're trying to change your round eyes to look like this. So, like, beauty is a trend, and it comes and it goes, and everything's just ever changing. So just fall in love with what you already have, and period.
Yes, love yourself for who you are.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do any cosmetics, do it because you want to, not because you're trying to
anybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%. Yes.
Sabrina, love you so
much.
Love
you.
Thank you for joining. You want to plug your social handles? And
it's right behind you.
That's right. Is that all you have? Okay.
Yeah, that's all I have a TikTok too, but I'm never on it. I have a YouTube, but the link is in that bio. Instagram is like my center. Okay. So if you want to know anything about me, just go to my Instagram.
Alrighty. Follow.
Okay, love you. This was fun.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Together we'll purify the mind and have a good time. I'll showcase your very best on Fumble Podcast.